Absolutely phenomenal being with you today. I'm Kieno Kammies, and this is not the Kieno Kammies show, thank heavens. That stopped a long time ago. Today we are talking winning with AI. It's a masterclass for founders. How often have you heard people with AI speak? How often have you been bombarded with articles and you literally feel like you're drowning, right? Well, this podcast is here to help you make sense of the world around you when it comes to AI. So I'm going to ask our guests to introduce themselves. Per Lagerstrom, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
So I'm Per. Hi, Kieno. It's good to be here. And McElory, it's fantastic to actually get together. I'm Swedish. I fell in love with South Africa a number of years back. I've been living here ever since, building behavior tech ventures out of Cape Town.
Great.
I'm a venture builder, I'm an investor, and we tend to focus on behavior tech. Anywhere where the crazy stuff around human beings matters for business outcomes, we play.
McElory, what about yourself?
Yes, so thanks also for being here. So I am the CEO of Praelexis, and we are a machine learning or artificial intelligence-based company in Stellenbosch. And background of myself is I actually studied AI or machine learning, and actually my first algorithm that I've seen was in 2001.
Wow.
So I guess I've been in the field for quite a while.
An algorithm, I'm telling you, in 2001, I thought an algorithm was something you did when they played music. Right, okay?
Exactly.
That's seriously what I would have thought.
Or best Excel.
Exactly.
Yeah, regression analysis in Excel. That was kind of it.
So, I mean, the reason why we are here is to just unclutter the world when it comes to AI. You know, everybody's building an AI. You've got Bard. You've got, what's this other thing called? ChatGPT, which I still think is better than Bard, by the way. You've got all these other things flooding into the market. And, you know, you could be someone running a restaurant or someone just running a normal business where you've got a lot of data. And people say, you should use AI for it. Oh, and then you go, okay, great, but how do I do that? So let's talk a little bit. Per, you always talk about this technology overhang, right? What does that actually mean in English? When you say technology overhang, if you can sort of demonstrate to us what that actually means.
Look, for a very long time, there's an old saying that says we tend to overestimate what technology can do in the short term and underestimate what it can do in the long term. Mm-hmm. The stuff that's come at us in the last 2-3 years had brought that long term here. Right. And the thesis among many savvy investors around the world at the moment, the stuff that has happened with ChatGPT, which everybody knows about,
right,
but actually low-code components that are falling rapidly in cost, avatars becoming commoditized, human sensing technology, suddenly we have a toolkit that allows us to play with products and building products in a way we simply couldn't do before. So we're in a period now where there's not going to be another monster shift in stuff we can pay with.
Sure.
But everybody's busy productifying with what we have. This period is the period of the technology overhang. And it's probably for the next 2 years. It's not for a decade. Yeah.
Right.
But during this period, we're going to make do with what we have, and we're not going to see another huge step change. That's the thesis behind that. And that's where a lot of the investor money is going at the moment.
Absolutely. Now, there is the leap between establishing the challenge you have in the business and then finding the right, well, you first have to ask yourself, do I need to build an app? Do I need an AI for this, right? And a lot of people don't play in the realm that we play in, where we actually understand a little bit more than most the nuances of artificial intelligence, right? But these business people, and the one thing we do know, if you don't adopt some type of smart technology, you could potentially be left behind. So whether you're running an Airbnb or whether you're running a production line, I mean, it's true for both. Where do people start with trying to figure out what to do, what to use, where to go?
McElory will have clear views on this, right?
Yeah.
But you got to understand what's the problem you're trying to solve. AI is just an enabler.
Exactly.
It is another tool. It's very hot at the moment. It's very contemporary. It's very buzzy. But it is a tool or a suite of tools to solve a problem in a much better way than we can do before.
Exactly.
right? What you said, you've been doing algorithms since 2001. The thing around building models around complex, fussy, noisy data is not new. The speed by which we can do it, the sophistication by which we can do it, and the much lower cost of doing it, that's game changing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I totally agree. So what you should not do is this, I have a hammer and now everything looks like a nail. And unfortunately, many times we treat AI or machine learning like that. We typically have at Praelexis this approach of, we call it the Praelexis iceberg. And that is, everyone see the tip of the iceberg, which is the machine learning or the AI solution that you want to implement. But there's actually a whole body of beneath that. And the things beneath that is indeed things like a strategy. What do I think I want to do with these things? Then getting to business cases is typically the next stage. And again, these business cases must have a proper value.
Correct.
And then you start talking about people that should enable that, whether it's data people, also people that will take it to within the business, infrastructure, a technology that's also enabling AI that we've spoken, that we've seen now as cloud, for example.
Right.
So all those things. And then only once all these things are in play, you need to start thinking about doing AI. And if you don't do that and think about the rest of things, then you end up, been to many organizations where they do AI with a computer under the desk and no one has value. So yes, you do it, but it has absolutely no value than maybe entertaining value.
Well, exactly. I mean, AI doesn't apply to anything. I mean, if it's a chaotic system where you don't have, traditionally, repetitive things that, if you can replicate something which has a pattern, for example, you can use artificial intelligence for it. I think I'm just trying to put it very simply. But it's not as easy as people think as well. You have databases which basically feed your AI. Whatever's in that database needs to be good, clean, well annotated, because if you don't, it's a case of rubbish in, rubbish out. So there are all these nuances that you need to think of. But I love what you guys are saying about get to the problem first. Because your business is about the people. Your business is about the challenges that your customers face. Your business is about how do you ease those problems for those customers. And once you got your qualitative data on that.
You see, it is a buzzword.
Yeah.
We're also seeing a step change in what we can do.
Yeah.
And what people tend to forget is the step change is not just the sophistication of the modeling that we can do,
Yes.
but it's how fast we can do it,
Right.
and how much less capex we need. So that doesn't take away we need to do the homework, the databases needs to be clean. But the tradecraft of building models is being radically simplified and decomplexified, because you're almost building a Lego as opposed to writing miles and miles of bloody code.
Yeah.
Right? So what cost us $5 million 3-4 years ago, it will now be $500,000 or $100,000, and you have a beta up in 60 days instead of a year.
Right.
That changes the dynamic fundamentally from how you build ventures, because it is about modeling stuff.
100%.
And build that into a product.
I mean, that is the whole idea, as you explain it now, the idea of foundational models, which is kind of like the underlying pinning of these things like ChatGPT and all these buzzwords that we use. The idea that someone somewhere in the world can spend money, train a model, and then we can use the same model and adapt or fine-tune, or that's the words maybe they use, to make it work for your environment.
Yeah.
And that is important. I want to add quickly on something that you said on the data and the rubbish in and the garbage in, the garbage out.
Yeah.
There is actually, it's one thing if it's complete garbage.
Yes.
At least you have garbage out. What one should certainly be careful about is if there are hidden garbage. For example, if you think of things like bias and discrimination and all those things, and they might not look like garbage, but you might end up with a result that is not intended. And that is, again, one of the things that one should be careful about when you talk about AI, that you don't take the hidden garbage in, if I use your words.
A good way of demonstrating that would be CVs, for example, right? We live in a world where, hey, women can actually run companies.
Yeah, exactly.
They should have a long time ago, but hey, now all of a sudden we've woken up. And now we're saying, okay, so we've created this AI that can scroll through 1 million CVs that come in and we've given it, our database consists of, all the best managers we've had in the last 30 years. Hello?
Yeah. That's
If the
problem.
woman's CV comes in, she is going to be at a disadvantage because for the last 30 years, we had pink gentlemen, 6 foot tall, who only spoke, I don't know, Wakanda, right? And it's going to reference historically what was great in this company, and it's going to reference that against what's coming in, which is new, which should change. And there's going to be a mismatch, and that is where you find these type of biases. Am I right?
You are right. So the reason we can now entertain these conversations is because it is powerful.
Yes.
And as soon as something is powerful, it has a dark side and a light side.
Yeah.
So we actually have to stitch these businesses together to harness the light side on the value side out of it and put some guardrails in place to make sure the dark side is protected.
Absolutely.
So we're currently working on a life insurance advisory business called Shore here in South Africa, which is in beta. For a long time, giving advice has been seen as it has to be done by a human advisor. That's your broker.
Yeah.
It is a shitty business, very high on admin and quite
Yeah.
frustrated, but that's the way it is. Now, actually, in a very short period of time, we can create a whole new model because of the AI and the other components. So in the past, it would be an advisor meeting a client. But now actually it is an advisor meeting a client together with Frank.
Yes.
And Frank is a conversational, intelligent bot agent, whatever you call it, that actually is remarkably good at remembering every bloody conversation that's happened over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And suddenly the stage at which financial advice is given can change.
Right.
And it serves the client, it serves the advisor, and the technology does what the technology is supposed to do. That is a direct application of AI stitched together with other components.
Okay.
And I tell you now, a year ago, we just didn't think we could do it. Now we absolutely can. And it's live.
And what about this thought that, to successfully implement artificial intelligence, it's actually a human computer system, i.e., you do need a human component in a lot of your applications of AI to look at the nuances. So let's say, I don't know, cybersecurity, right? Picks up an anomaly, it tells you, there's a problem. The human understands the contextual side of it, right? The human has a certain view on the business. And the human will be able to say, yes, it's picked up. Yes, it's not how we've done stuff for the last 30 years, but there's been a change in policy over da-da-da-da-da, and that is why it's picked it up. Is that disappearing, where humans are playing less important role?
I actually think the human is absolutely central on at least two dimensions. First is garbage in, garbage out. In our businesses, 50% of CapEx goes to tech, and 50% goes to training algorithms. Yeah. And it's actually humans in the loop, there's big data sets, and there's a tradecraft in there, which is what Praelexis is doing.
Yes.
Their tradecraft is not going away.
Sure.
The nature of how that's being done is becoming different because we can do it faster at lower cost, etc. But the tradecraft is still there, but it's much more effective and it's much more efficient.
Okay. Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so I want to add, so there's a saying, let machines be machines and let humans be humans. And I think that is certainly how we also view when you implement things, is you design the human to be part of it. And it's almost the human within the loop. Now, that said, I mean, it is a point of contention. As the machines get better and better, then humans might be replaced at doing certain things. Like, I mean, if you can imagine if you were a horseshoe manufacturer many years ago and the car came out, I mean, maybe your business was not that big at that stage anymore. Yet that opened doors to other things like wheel manufacturers now all of a sudden. And so I start seeing that the AI world will follow a similar trajectory, that yes, some jobs might be replaced by machines, but then humans will do other jobs.
Yes.
It's not an eradication of what the human's role in is in the whole ecosystem.
Repurposing, very good example of this, right? A company called Aerobotics. So I spent some time in one of the farms that they work on, and it's the Kluwer farm, as a matter of fact. Lovely family. And I was chatting to one of the daughters, and they were talking about the AI, and obviously they use the drone then flies over, uses computer vision and all these other fancy stuff to tell you about the health of the crops. Lovely. there was this lady who used to walk around and check the trees and, do a lot of the manual inspection, that now sat with a computer, analyzed it, became a data analyst, and started becoming a manager, telling other people what to do in order to correct some of the challenges that were found. So there's a very good example of repurposing jobs at the end of the day. And I think clever leaders in organizations will see that. And if they know what they're talking about, if they care about their people, it's about retraining people in the organization. A Deloitte has moved away from your traditional accounting, et cetera, the other side of their consulting, one of the biggest digital businesses in the globe, you've seen Accenture, you've seen other people move to the digital side of things because their traditional work is now easily replaceable. I mean, Per, you would know about this. You come from this background initially. AI has indeed changed massive businesses and the directions those businesses take.
Yeah, look, and actually, you also need to, we need not to take ourselves so seriously as a species.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
since Kingdom comes, we face disruption. The steam engine was a disruption. The horse was a disruption. The wheel was a disruption. And we are now just facing large disruptions at a much more compressed timescale. Yeah. So, I don't know, in certain things, the humans will be outcompeted by the machine because the machine is superior.
Yeah.
But in 90% of the cases we are involved, it's about augmenting people,
correct,
helping them to do things better.
Yeah.
The life insurance advisory is a very good case because as a human being, we're actually pretty crappy at memory. But the machine is very good at memory.
Yes.
We are very good at judgment, at fine, tailored judgment.
Yeah.
The machine is not.
Yes.
So the human should work on the trust and the empathy and the judgment.
Right.
And the machine should have the perfect memory and get the broad strokes right. And if you now match the machine with the advisor, the two of them together will be one hell of a team. That's the thesis behind these
Perfect.
ventures.
In fact, if you look at many of these, I think it was with one of the, it was either Go or chess, where they say if you have a single, if you just take a computer, then another computer or a human can't really beat that. But if you make the combination computer and human, then you have something that's almost unbeatable.
Yes.
And I think that is essentially what you're also saying is by combining humans and machines, you can actually get something that is very, very crafty.
We've had a wonderful conversation up until this point, and we'll continue. I mean, we have to find out where the smart money goes as well, because I think, giving people some advice, people wanting to invest, etc., where is the smart money going? I'm going to find out. But just to recap, so you're an ordinary business person. You're trying to figure out what to do with AI. Forget about the AI initially. Figure out what the problem is in your business, right? What the challenges are that your customers are facing. Get the empathetic insights, sort of overlay that with your quantitative data. Then figure out what you need to do. The AI follows after that. This is just some of the lessons that I've learned. You're rooted in people and solutions. And you also have to ask yourself whether you actually need AI for something. And get an expert. People like Per and McElory over here, these type of human beings who understand what's happening there could give you advice, because they're not going to build something that's not going to be successful for you. They would be able to tell you, actually, maybe you shouldn't be building this, right? So I think that's kind of what I'm getting from this first segment. We need to worry about bias as well, But once again, when you have the conversations with the people who know, they'll be able to give you their advice. But as a founder of a business, if you're not tech inclined, focus on your people, then have conversations with other people who understand the other fancy stuff, who can then potentially help you move your business forward. And that's whether you're a founder of a startup or whether you're the CEO of a big business out there as well. So, smart money. Where is the smart money going when it comes to artificial intelligence solutions?
Look, I think you need to ask this where the smart money is going when it comes to venture building.
Venture building? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I certainly see the smart money goes to a couple of places. It goes to verticals.
Yes.
Where there is now large unsolved problems.
Right.
Financial advice. Where there's a high human touch that historically hasn't been automated.
Right.
The smart money is now saying, actually, those huge inefficiencies can be automated out. We want to play there. They also go to founders that has a different playbook for how they build their ventures. So
Sure.
the notion I'm going to go raise money, I'm going to hire quite a big team, and I'm going to have an office, and I'm going to spend a year to develop a product. That's gone.
Right.
The playbook is gig resources, no offices, ultra lean, very smart capital allocation, very quick to an MVP, even a simulated MVP. Not even putting it out in the marketplace. You just walk around with a clickable prototype, and very quickly using product thinking,
Right.
yeah, and design thinking to very quickly iterate towards product. So I think the smart money is looking for founders that got the version 2 playbook together with a vertical where there is virgin space that hasn't been competed away. You don't want to be application number 500 going after the same problem. The smart money is not interested in that.
McElory?
So I agree with Per. So with the type of founder that you talk about, but also the industries. I mean, financial services, healthcare is, for example, something that's still very much going on. I have friends, for example, that really build interesting applications that will really solve people's problems. I mean, make people healthy, so to speak.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about AI, when people typically talk to us, then they always say you must specialize in one vertical or not. But
Sure.
But the interesting thing with AI is it works across so many domains.
Yes.
And so many verticals. And that, I think, is the interesting. Whenever there's humans, there's typically some problems, or whenever there's data, maybe that's a bit better phrased. And
Sure.
then things can be solved there. And I think to Per's view is then it is, you don't want to be application number 500. That is for sure
Yeah.
the case. But you also have to look a bit around from 2 angles. Where are there problems? But at the same time, and this is, I think, where it's maybe a bit different, you have to also ask the question, what can technology enable me today, what I could not have done yesterday? And then start seeing the world as if you see it for the first time. So you can solve problems that previously you're not able to solve them. And I think that makes it challenging. So to almost revisit old assumptions that you've made about things that you couldn't have done. Since chances are that you could do some stuff. Yeah. The one thing that is, of course, still an interesting or a conundrum for me is I don't know what to say about it. Is things like self-driving cars were 5 years or 6 years ago in the news, everywhere there. Then of course after that. These ChatGPT things almost seem to overtake that, and it seems that the technology is right to move forward, yet we as humans are not completely ready with the regulations and things like that. So I think what will also be interesting within this space is how does regulation move us in these spaces, and how you can prepare yourselves around that.
Regulation will always follow innovation. What's this car company? Uber is a very good example. They go into all these spaces, they cause havoc, and now the politicians are going, we need to figure this out. And it happens a lot of the time. I think to expect politicians, and with all due respect to them, to expect politicians to be that forward-thinking that they will act like this when a new technology lands, it's few and far between. There might be 1 or 2 countries where they're very savvy. And I think Rwanda on the continent is probably one of those countries. But the legislation's always going to follow afterwards.
Look, I think the bit on what McElory said, with the capabilities we have now, it can be very aspirational for the North Star.
Yeah.
In these verticals.
Sure.
And actually we can credibly say we get there within 3 years or 5 years in a way we just couldn't do before. The investors, they're scared shitless about that because that's too big. So you need the combination. The smart money is looking for founders that's got a unbelievably aspirational North Star.
Yes.
And knows how to get there.
Yeah.
And then a very practical first stage that doesn't need regulatory change, that doesn't need all the actors to behave in a different way, and they can very quickly monetize that. The genius actually sits in how do you shape that roadmap. So you have the and between the North Star and the intensely practical 90-day launch that actually washes its own face on the cash it generates very quickly. the smart money looks at founders that can get that. It historically has been, I give you endless amounts of money for a land grab and go out and go after this big thing. The money won't do that. It's too risky. I buy the vision. I can see why it's technically possible, but actually in quarter one we do X.
Sure.
And actually you're going to get to revenue very quickly.
Sure.
That's where we see. And a lot of the tech that McElory and the guys are working with helps us very rapidly stand up those living models that actually generate revenue.
Yes, okay, that makes a heck of a lot of sense, actually. Some would argue, though, if you get into the difficult to enter markets, you're able to protect yourself. Because remember, if it's easy for you to go out there and wash your face, it's going to be easy for 25 other people to go out there and wash their faces. If, however, I manage to land something in a highly regulated space, and yes, it takes me a year and a half to do that, anybody who wants to compete with me will have to have the networks, will have to buy the trust, will have to, climb the same mountain that I've climbed.
You're absolutely right, because the flip side of the fact that it's easier to do it means a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
So you need to be very clear what's the moat and what is proprietary. So everybody's talking about ChatGPT and building, like you and I spoke about on the way in here, quite clever applications on top of ChatGPT. The advantage of those is going to be competed away either by ChatGPT itself in their app store or by other players.
Sure.
But if you understand the basics of large language models, transformers, and AI, and you use open source stuff, and then you create proprietary components around that, and that becomes your model, then you're in business, and that's very investable.
Yep, that makes sense.
Also, I think it is almost a combination of the two. If you have, as you pointed out, a good North Star, now maybe the North Star is not 10 years or 5 years away, but actually relatively close by, but then you have test points or milestones, and those should be very rapidly coming. So yes, you might still need a year and a half to actually overcome and win in the regulatory space, but people don't want to wait a year and a half to see the final result. So then the idea is, what is the next baby step that can prove, and as Per pointed out, it might even be a simulated model or a simulation, and that I think is the slight difference. It's almost, I think it's a combination of the two. It's not, everyone can go to the same space, have a model 100%. Out in a week, and there you go. It is a roadmap to get there with fast iterations.
I love it. So, I mean, it's been a great discussion, and we can go on for an hour, and we won't. So, I think in wrapping up, and I mean, some wonderful insights thus far. Right. Let's have a bit of a chat around the tips and tricks. Let's talk about some of those tips and tricks, what to do, what not to do, the lessons learnt. You guys didn't wake up yesterday to do any of this. You've done it. You've made mistakes. You've probably hit a wall or two, maybe not, so from either of you.
Well, let's do one each and we can throw in. I'd throw in straight away. I was saying you can go into almost any vertical with this large inefficiencies. Do not enter those verticals without having people that were born and raised inside that vertical. So bring the people with the deep pattern recognition on your board, your advisors, or on your team, then use the kit that we can start to source. But never forget, you have to understand the industry that you're in at depth. That's my first takeaway.
Love it.
I've almost something in the same line, and that is, don't build what you can sell. Sorry, it's the other one. I just got it wrong. So don't sell what you can build. Build what you can sell. And that is essentially echoing what you're saying, is by making sure you really understand problems and solving real problems for people. Then people will be willing to buy for it. And then you have a thing that you can go with. But if you just solve some hypothetical problems, I mean, I look at some of these devices that is in home automation, for example, but they solve problems that maybe is not a relevant problem for me. And so it's important to solve the right problems.
Reminds me of the Samsung fridge with the TV on it. I mean, like, who thought of that? Really? And, at the end of the day, it's about, this is why I love story as much. Because, people think of story as this airy-fairy thing. But if you actually listen to people's stories, you understand their pain. If you listen to people's solutions who are in the same space, you will start understanding solutions. If you listen to the stories in a business from the perspective of people who've interacted with that business, you can onboard people in that business using story. So what I'm saying is, get to understand people. Technology is an enabler. Your thrust
Absolutely.
that gets you there is actually understanding the pain point and finding a solution for that pain point, which is authentic and real. And then you go and get the clever people
Yeah.
to try and help to help deliver the AI or whatever else you need to move that solution of forward more effectively.
I mean, if you were having founders around the table, I would build on what you said. So you have to solve the pain points.
Yes.
You also have to understand materiality.
Yep.
Because as a founder, don't solve a pain point. It's in a market where total market size is $5.
100%.
Right? Why bother? Yeah. Solve a pain point on a roadmap in a market that's $5 billion that is riddled with inefficiencies, and you'll make hay. Yeah.
Indeed.
But don't try to browbeat a small problem into a solution and then say there was nothing else to solve, because there's no business in there, and nobody's going to fund that.
Indeed. Well, this is show number 1, and there's more to come. So just an introduction into trying to make sense of, and as Per always says, this technology overhang. We're going to try and make sure that you see the wood from the trees at the end of all of this. So I'm looking forward to chatting to you next time, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I've learned a heck of a lot today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.